The future of audio system. At year 2026, industry practically solved two critical parts of high-end audio system. What does it mean solved? That we reach a human hearing threshold and further improvements doesn't make sense. You can make it some tiny bit of electrically better or some electronic parameters better, but human is not able to hear it. Or recently we solved most critical part, that's source. Now first, our concept has changed. The younger generation are using exclusively cloud services. And not only youngest generation, practically today, just renting some music services, we have about 60 million recordings available for us, and we can select music what we like, and we can select the quality what we like. I signed for some forums really to listen what high-end equipment people think and how they speak and how they exchange this information. And averaging messages is that we are at a good enough state. There's always some sellers or some advanced guys saying that streaming services are not good enough for excellent quality and only CD, or not only CD but even 24-bit audio. And most of those recordings difference is music mastering, not the technology, how it is delivered. My personal opinion that 5-10 years ago actually we solved the source. We have access to content and this transport is almost perfect. And I picked here one internet shop, it's AliExpress, it also could be Amazon, but in AliExpress we can see a trend. And one thing what happens in year 2026, China industry learned how to make a digital analog converter. And practically with a massive competition you can choose any. And most of those devices, even at a low end, are pretty good. And if I look at some better examples, for example this SMSL, it's perfect minimum viable product. It has a mains input, it has balanced outputs, core digital transport inputs, everything is there. And for example this Topping DX5 is also draw my attention because parameters are rocketing. It is minimum viable product and at maximum, practically maximum digital to analog conversion performance. How does it measures? Here is audio science review measurements. Synod about 120 decibels. This is insane, insane. And you can see practically all those latest generation digital to analog converters are the same. So China manufacturers learned, and our skills are mostly to pick one. Don't ask me which one to recommend. I think the life cycle of those devices is about 6 months. I can tell something or buy some sample and test it, but you should look at latest generation developments. And this is close to perfection. The built-in power supply, all digital inputs, including coaxial. You have 12-volt trigger to drive amplifiers or some other stuff. You have balanced outputs, excellent quality. I'm shocked for that price. Fantastic results, fantastic results. Digital to analog part has been solved completely. So we have content, we have access to content, and we have a digital to analog converter moving from a digital world to analog world to drive speakers. How to access streaming services? Just use some outdated laptop and you will have a perfect streaming device. Much better than built-in controllers. You may need to optimize some drivers to put some ACO drivers, but anyway, this part also has been solved, and in the secondary market you can buy a laptop for a fraction of price. Such type of devices, balanced outputs, allow you to place it remotely from amplifier or from active speaker system and you have perfect interconnection. I'm not talking about wireless connections or other more sophisticated results. So practically we have solved that source part. It is so good, so good, so good that there is no sense to talk about the quality anymore. It's done thing. Now we need the well-mastered records, and then we need new performers, new singers, new musicians, new composers. We are struggling there. And artificial intelligence is not an option how to solve it. And I don't expect that in the future something change. This artificially synthesized music will be average good. And it is kind of good, but we are looking for imperfection for some specific emotions. Artificial intelligence is not ready yet. And it's hard to say, will it be in the future? Amplification. Hypex ICEpower Purifi, they did a great job and they built next generation amplifiers. Now, for example, there are two boards from ICEpower, and those are solving long-lasting issue that we doesn't have sufficient power. Today we can get for fraction of money, for 430 euros, we can get 2 times 600 watts for 4 ohm and for 8 ohm. It's nice architecture. I have another video where I talk about those boards, and some extreme users even get a kilowatt per channel for really reasonable money. And those devices quality is amazing. And if you look at the data sheet, all parameters are skyrocketing. Yeah. And practically this amplifier also is endgame amplifier. Yeah, we can talk about tiny bit better. But in general, if you look at the feedback, even in my channel, about those solutions, when someone put it together, immediately recognize that this amplifier is capable to drive any load. Frequency characteristic linearity, no crazy, up to 20 kilohertz with 0.5 decibel tolerance. You can get clean, undistorted 0.0, blah 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 power up to 500 watts. Yeah, you can drive any speaker system. Solved. Today solved. It was problem in the past. And those boards are available for everyone. I built a kit for that, but it's not today's topic. Yeah. I had a kit, and if you want to put it together, you can buy a board and then put them together in such type of compact amplifier, and everything will be solved. So amplification part today at year 2026 has been solved. And you also can drive really high sensitivity speakers due to the really low noise, 30 microvolts. Come on. What next? Which part has not been solved yet? Actually, speaker hasn't been solved. When you are going to shop, you have infinite variations of those base designs. This is kind of near field monitor, shelf speaker, two-way speakers, different type of that. You can find plenty of modifications. It could be floor standards, those could be bookshelf type, those could be really large. There could be some rounded forms, and then would be some really exotic forms. But at the very end, it doesn't impact too much sound. Practically today, this part has not been solved. Each of them sounds a bit different. Even they sound kind of similar, but it will always has a coloration. And this part today is not solved, so we should buy maximum what we can afford. And significant role is playing low frequency register. When you're talking about the low frequencies, it's those are large dimensions in most cases, so we should not accept large dimensions. We don't need exotic forms. We need a good low frequency region, good bass, good deep bass. It's more important than excessive tweeter or something on a upper side. Those low frequencies really influence how we perceive music. And how can we improve our speaker reproduction quality? What we are looking for? We are looking for tiny details, high sensitivity, tiny details, and precision. So we need some solution when we can do the best possible control over a loudspeaker. And the normal standard solutions are that inside of such speakers we have a passive crossover. Yeah, it was necessity, it is making system universal, but when we want better quality, we can't achieve it just with a better amplifier. Those elements here are really making blurry our audio performance. You can see how many elements should go through to reach that mid-range, that precise mid-range where we want the best possible soundstage. That means we need a different architecture. Let's look at such a crossover. How does it look in a real life? This is schematic. And here I took a real crossover. How does it look inside? For the woofer, signal is going through that large coil, and this is kind of a good crossover, but it's crossing pretty high, about 650, 800 hertz. When we want to go lower, this coil become much larger, and then we use some iron coils or other type of that. So many high wattage components, resistors, all signal is dying here. Our signal is dying here. We can't drive our speakers with maximum precision. All those components are really bad, and think that we can get rid of them. Your power amplifier output signal is going through many elements until they reach a loudspeaker. And look at a modern loudspeaker. It's a good loudspeaker for reasonable money, 50-60 euros, mid-range. It is built as a mid-range, and between this loudspeaker, it really provides those details, those soundstage, and so many other things. When we are driving that loudspeaker directly, it can perform at a maximum. And for reasonable money, you can get fantastic type of loudspeakers today. You don't need even 300-350 euros worth loudspeakers. The difference is minor, especially when you're driving it directly. And let's look why. This is your speaker impedance. You can see how difficult it is for your amplifier to drive such a complex impedance. And there's on a crossover region, it can fall down to 3 and 2 ohms sometimes. Yeah. So this is very hard load. But let's look what happens when we connect it directly to a loudspeaker. As example, I took that mid-range. Let's look at the data sheet. And you can see here is loudspeaker impedance. In case we are crossing at 300 hertz and at 250 or 350 kilohertz here, it is really flat and changing from, let's say, from 4 ohms to 5 ohms, 1 ohm difference. It is so easy load for any amplifier than even such chipsets as TPA 3255 or drives this loudspeaker with perfect tolerance, absolutely perfect tolerance. And then it allows for us to build different architecture, active speaker system. And I want to show you concept with some real products. How can we achieve this maximum performance? What we need for that? How do I see a future of audio system? Actually, here is one example, and I built a speaker because it was really hard to buy such quality speaker. I made it by myself. I choose loudspeakers for that, and this is my demo unit, what I'm showing for several customers. About the concept. Actually, this is empty box without crossover, and in that case we just put speaker outputs on a connector, and there is a modern new generation speak on connectors with 8 pairs in it, and you can make a 4-way speaker and put all the loudspeaker outputs on that connector. In my case, I am using only 3 pairs. I have 3 speakers in it, and then you have plenty of flexibility. First, I can put a passive crossover. I can do the variations of passive crossovers. I can have some kind of budget version, then I have more expensive version, and then I have a high-end version, really without compromises, expensive crossover. And crossover largely impacting how your speaker will sound. Another pretty interesting part in that concept is completely passive, just a box and loudspeakers. That furniture industry could become very good speaker manufacturer because they can handle higher quality woodworking equipment. They already have it, and price will reduce due to the large volume. They can utilize their equipment more efficient. They're also not that dependent on a market. It could be supportive division. In case you just sign a contract with some OEM loudspeaker manufacturers with a good loudspeakers, the only thing what you should do, you should properly calculate the box, and with a modern software I can calculate such box in an hour. Costs are minimalistic, and you can produce such type of speakers in large quantities. And this is really good speaker. This is my demo speaker, and the customers, when they come, they are really amazed about the results. One more advantage is flexibility. Look at connector. So it is completely passive. There are 3 pairs of passive wires. You don't need a wall socket, and you can make it pretty long, and you have flexibility of the placement. And also all those 3 pairs what I have, connection is really simple. You just plug and play. All polarities are correct. You have key. And also such type of signal connectors or speaker connectors are relatively on budget. Due to the flat impedance for a loudspeaker, requirements for the speaker wires becoming really low, and you need a thick wire only for a woofer, for mid-range and tweeter. 1 millimeter, even half square millimeter wires will be more than okay for a 6 meter wires. You have a low power there and a flat impedance. It will be excellent, and also control will be perfect for mid-range and tweeter, but normally isn't. So many advantages when you are using such a concept, and this is how I see a future. Because otherwise, once you put, for example, here some big electronic board, high power board, and there is a probability that something could happen with that. Yes, you can put a lot of functionalities, other stuff, but you need to make a trade-off between how much costs that particular speaker and what customer is ready to pay. Normally, my products also starting with a price. I know for what price I should make it. I can make a greatest product in the world, but I will not be able to sell when when the price is not right. So many things we should think about, and those are stopping to make those large high-end speakers active. The price is too high, and also technology is developing, and when you put in some additional electronics, those become outdated relatively fast. So that concept, when you put active speaker system for high-end, for home usage, they have number of drawbacks. And I will show you some equipment what I built for that concept, what I am explaining now. Let's check a few items. And what we have, this is power amplifier, 8 times 150 watt amplifiers. And in case you have a small room and you are placing your speakers in a corner, there is plenty of power. Because once you are placing your speakers in a corner, you get a room gain. You need about 4 to 10 times less power to drive a woofer comparing when you put in a large room away from the wall. In that case, all power is sufficient, and this is a main solution that I'm using. I'm using TPA3255 boards for that, and you can't imagine how good it sounds. I demonstrated for some high-end equipment owners, and they can't believe that such sound is possible. But this is mostly due to the architecture. And you can see this is an active crossover, analog active crossover, Behringer. You can set the crossing frequencies for woofer and mid-range, and here you can set the crossing frequencies for mid-range and tweeter, and then you have you can regulate gain for each of the loudspeakers. A really flexible way how can you do it, and there's a main sensitivity for that. Typically it's I'm putting it at a 0, and this is fine. Working with a modern digital analog converters, everything is fine in such settings. This is already tuned to the speaker, and for extreme performance you can also use a limiter in case you have higher power equipment, but for home usage it's not needed. And that's it. Yeah, that's it. We are not building such system inside of the speaker, but keeping a separate item. And by size, it is close to the modern high-end amplifier. And then with overall kind of budget approach, for about €500, we can have a complete system for your speakers. And those will sound better than the same speaker with built-in passive crossover. How does it look from the opposite side? Of course, those are large 8-pole speaker connectors, and then you have a mainstream balanced inputs, XLR balanced inputs, and you can use patch cables which are produced in large volumes in professional industry, and those wires has a perfect connection and relatively low price. And that's it. Yeah, that's it. Then you add digital to analog converter to the inputs, and you are set. This is how I see a future. That speaker becoming passive box. What else can we do? There's a large amount of used high quality speakers in the market for reasonable money. And with such system, we can bypass crossover and drive them directly. Those immediately will sound by far, far better. What else can we do? We can replace mid-range and tweeter with a modern speakers. Modern speakers are better than old days speakers, for that simple reason that CNC technology and other stuff look at the precision, how everything is done and how strong is a magnet, and this technology has a higher tolerance than it used to be in 70s, 80s and even 90s. So many additional excellent solutions in a moment when we are moving to the active setup. What else we can do? There is DBX digital crossover. You have complete control over loudspeakers. You can do such things as a phase linear loudspeakers. You can do some specific precise improvements in amplitude frequency characteristics. You can do online measurements, and those equipment in professional market becoming cheaper and cheaper. At beginning those were expensive, and today prices for those devices are not high anymore. Those are affordable. Comparing to consumer markets, those are really on budget, and those are far, far better than several consumer devices. Because in professional market, companies put a lot of effort in research and development, and then they produce few models, but really polished designs in huge quantities. This is the only way how to get a reasonable price, and overall musician industry, except those who are on the top of pyramid, those are not super rich people. Those are normal people, and they are working hard, and they need equipment, and you should design and sell equipment for them. They're selling in large quantities, but with a reasonable price. And then you mix this professional and consumer audio, then we can get really high-end sound for reasonable costs. And I think this is the future. When both industries, as rational industries, as professional industry, matching with consumer industry, then we get the best quality per price. So the best performance for your money. And I'm going to build such type of the products. This is how I see a future. And the last thing, where to place this amplifier. I want to say that we will screw it on a wall. Yeah, it is kind of not a shiny equipment on a rack. It is part of the smart house system. And then we just connect speakers and manage that new next generation digital device from our phone or from tablet or from computer or for a smart home system. This is where we should go. And then we have a maximum performance, reasonable costs, and all money we will put in a speaker. I have seen already Linton Wharfedale products with a simple crossover in it, but if you take this crossover out, then you have the same setup as I had, and those speakers were priced, the lowest price what I saw was about €1,000 new. Those are developed in UK and produced in China, and there's this mix gives really good product. And when you do that active system modification, you don't need to change a box or do many things, just disconnect wires and put them to the output connector, and that's done. All modifications inside the box is very simple, and then the system works excellent.